So, lads, it's about time we start talking about some of the promoted teams. Now, I say that
No,
I
boo.
know, I know. Don't worry, this one's gonna be worth it. I promise, because I know what you're thinking. You're looking at Fulham and going, "Oh yeah, look at them signing all the players and hoping for the best." You look at
Leno.
Bournemouth going, "Oh, there they are back in the Premier League, but don't have Eddie Howe. That's a bit weird." But we're not talking about them today. Because I think we all want to not want to, but I think we need to have a very serious conversation about Nottingham Forest. Um,
Is that the title of this
it's
video? We need to have a talk about Forest.
we need to talk about Nottingham Forest, yeah. For various reasons. Primarily because obviously it's a bit of a big deal in the annals of English football. Kind of appropriate that on the 30th anniversary of the Premier League, they're back like 28 years after they got relegated or something along those lines, which is a crazy stat to think. The last time that they were in the Premier League, Brian Clough was their manager, and because he was Brian Clough and he was literally like made a god in that area, they they gave him a round of applause as he was being relegated with the team because he was retiring. It's just a weird like backwards logic of it. It's like if Bielsa was relegated with Leeds, I think he actually would have been sacrificed. No kind of way. It's a weird kind of like worship of it, but the it's a very different Nottingham Forest side in a sense where they had various different iterations. They've been a banter club for years and all this sort of stuff, and then suddenly now they're in the championship or in the Premiership after years of being that club in the Championship. So we kind of got hints of this last year when they knocked Arsenal out of the FA Cup and they gave Liverpool a serious run for their money the round after. But the reason is because they have a fantastic coach in Steve Cooper, who's kind of in that kind of that school of thought that the likes of Graham Potter comes from. Like technically made by the FA, but not used by the FA. They were too good for the FA, so they went
Yeah.
off. They went on an excursion. The
You're
FA kept
you're competent. Fuck off.
yeah, exactly. It's just like the FA
Give us
had to
Phil
keep
Neville.
yeah they had to keep Phil Neville and Eddie Booth
I
right
mean,
because literally no
Phil
one else
Neville,
would.
who built the foundations that Lioness's team
Shut up, Neil.
was
Shut the
on.
fuck up, Neil. Shut
No,
up, Neil.
What's
Neil.
that,
Shut
Tim?
up,
Neil.
Neil.
Right?
Shut
That
up,
No.
was
Neil. That is
those
No.
groundworks
no.
were
That's
done
Phil
by
Neville
Phil Neville.
propaganda.
Okay.
That's Phil Neville. You're getting muted. So can't deal with your hot takes, honestly. Anyway,
By the way,
so you
to
have
anybody
seen Cooper
listening,
now.
I was being heavily sarcastic there. I actually do not think that for a
You,
microsecond.
you after you realize that football fans don't understand sarcasm. Everything you say
Ah,
is
shit.
verbatim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
saying it to trigger Burkbot, so
And
I'm
it,
triggered.
it it worked. It
hashtag
worked.
triggered.
So, so you have T Cooper now, who's got this Nottingham Forest team into the Premier League. They were a bit of a hodgepodge of teams that are on loan, players that are on the last year of the contract who are leaving regardless of what happens, and basically like just general squad players that just happen to be there. And by virtue of the fact that the playoffs were essentially Huddersfield, who were in the same boat, Luton Town, which is a bit of a surprise, but again, a really well run club, and I think Sheffield United were there as well. And essentially they got a good run into the playoffs. They beat Huddersfield in the final, and here they are now. Now, that is not the start of the story, ladies and gentlemen. That is merely the prelude. That is the opening scene. Because according to transfer market, Nottingham Forest has spent virtually the most money and signed the most players of anyone in the world right now. Like there are literally like pub teams who have signed less players than Nottingham Forest right now. Allow me to indulge you and let's see how many of these names ring a bell. I'll start with the outgoings, right? This is all thanks to transfer market here. So sacked off completely, Lewis Graben and Gaten Bong. You've never heard of them, it's fine.
No.
You've got rid of now Brice Samba, Burkbot, you're a big fan of, which is their
Yeah.
goalkeeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's gone. He went alone for a couple of million. Um so a few other players have gone to the likes of like, so Joe Lolly's gone, Xander Silva, a lot of these kind of like players. And again, they had six loanees that are all gone back to their parent clubs. Chief amongst them would be James Garner, Ed Spence, who's now at Spurs. He was a loanee from Borough. Keenan Davis, who's at Villa, and they're trying to get him back now, but that's gone as well. But other players, one player you actually do know, Carl Jenkinson.
Yes, he's off to the Newcastle Jets.
Yes, Yes, indeed. It turns out he was in the A League for for last season as well. So they just said, "Joe, just stay there. We're good." Because in that time, fuck me, they've signed at time of recording. Because again, this will change. 16 players. So I'll start from the beginning. Um, Free transfers wise, you've got a couple from Man United. Dean Henderson is their new number one. Solid shout, really, even for a loan deal, but that'll likely be permanent in the summer if they survive. Even if they don't survive, they probably will sign him.
He's made it very clear he doesn't want to go back to United. So
That is very evident, yes. And as his backup, they got
I
Wayne
can play
Hennessy
out
in.
from the back,
Yes.
so I'm not gonna get to play.
So
United don't want to do that apparently, but they do. But they don't. So they're going to
they
have a
do.
keeper who can't do it badly.
They're still going to try.
God loves
So
it.
God loves a try. You're right. You're dead right. And backup goalkeeper, then you have Wayne Hennessy, who also plays in the right wing, ish. Then your other free transfers are Chiku Kayate from Palace, who has been perennially in the Premier League for the last couple of years, and Jesse Lingard, who I remember at the time when he signed, looked like the most random signing ever. But then it got worse. So,
Actually, I should point out that he signed for Forest rather than go back to
to West Ham, yes,
West
they were
Ham
offered more money, yeah.
because he was offered more money. He was offered they're paying him 200 grand a week,
Mm-hmm.
obscenely. And when he was when, when they played West Ham, didn't they? Uh,
Yes,
Yeah,
just
they
now,
played
yeah,
West Ham,
just
and the
last
West
week, yeah.
Ham fans threw fake money at him.
Yeah,
They shared him with confetti of fake money
beautiful.
and probably a
And
few other colourful words as well.
indeed, indeed. So this is those are all the free transfers. They really got signed for Premier League players in there. So this is when they get crazy. So they signed a young Costa Rican player called Brendan Aguilera for pittance, and then he signed two players from Huddersfield, namely Lewis O'Brien, who plays number 8, and Harry Toffolo, which is a left back, both from Huddersfield, the team they beat in the playoffs. So Nottingham Forest went, aha! I see we're playing pink slips. I'll take those two. Thank you very much.
For 10 million. No, that's actually a
10
good
million.
deal because O'Brien was voted wasn't he the championship player of the season?
He was in the team. He was in the
He
team of
was
the
in the
year. Yeah.
team, yeah. So okay, or you've got
Not a bad deal. No,
that's
not a bad deal at all.
10 million for two of them.
and he was decent because I didn't know who he was, and then I watched them at the weekend versus
Mm.
West Ham, and he was actually really good. Like he was decent. Like he was
O'Brien,
passing.
I really like O'Brien. He's a real proper
Yeah.
Milner-esque type of energy. He's a busybody. He just has clocks a lot of mileage. You can see why Cooper likes him.
Yeah.
So then he signed Omar Richards from Bayern Munich, which is a bit of a steal to be honest. They had a big high hopes for Richards when
Just
he left.
Nottingham Forest buying anyone from Bayern Munich is just bizarre.
Oh, it gets even worse, Burkbot. I haven't even started. Uh, Recently, they just signed Remo Freuler from Atalanta at a discount. Really, I mean, about 8 million, considering
And does he have gills?
I'll have to check. Freuler does sound like a fish, so let's assume so.
Mm.
Not really,
they
he's
got-
Swiss. So why would he be a fish in the mountains?
Just let Burkbot away with this one, right? I don't want to have this fucking argument again. All right, thanks. So then they got two more right backs. So what they've essentially been doing is they've been buying two for each position. Essentially, they've just built a new team. So the two new right backs are Julian Biancon from Troy and Neco Williams from Liverpool. They paid 18 million for him. We made a healthy profit on him. But in fairness, he suits Nottingham Forest down to the ground. He is a classic wing back, so he'll suit him absolutely fine. Then defensive wise, then they signed Musa Niakate, so he's probably their centerpiece defender now, ahead of the likes of Joe Worrell and McKenna, Scott McKenna. So then you have
McKenna with the fantastic goalie reflexes. Give KE McCabe a run for money.
Run for the money, yeah.
What a wonderful save. Right in front of his own keeper as well. Loved it.
Yeah.
Just show
great,
this is how you do it. This is how you do it, for fuck's sake.
It's fucking bum. Get out the ground, you fucking bum. Give me those gloves.
Yes. And then he followed up then with another central midfielder, Noel Mangala, who played against West Ham, and it wasn't too bad actually. I think he was a very good number 6. And then the strikers arrived. So you have Emmanuel Dennis from Watford for about 15 million, and Taiwo Awoniyi from Union Berlin, former Liverpool man, who's perhaps their marquee signing at the moment. But then they went a bit mad because then they signed Morgan Gibbs White from Wolves, who again is a player who, like, if you play Football Manager, you'll know because he ends up being a prodigy. But right now he hasn't quite hit that mark where you're thinking like, oh yeah, he's crucial. But not
It
as far
sounds
as
like
basically
he's
wanting
trying
to
to
get the
set up
dips.
his own law firm.
Yeah, he does sound like Morgan Gibbs and White. Yeah, I can see that actually.
Probably
Yeah,
not law. I'm gonna just tell you now. I'm just gonna refer to him as law firm.
law firm. Okay, fair. All right, change approved. But either way, he's going for what's starting at 25
Too
million,
many
but raises
syllables.
up.
Law firm.
Too many, too many syllables. Oh God. This is the type of football podcast quality you can expect from us. Um, but um, but either way, he's going now to Forest about 25 million. Essentially, it'll go up as far as 44 million with add-ons and kind of player performances and appearances and that sort of jazz. So it was a stupid amount of money for a player who still really hasn't quite broken into the Premier League yet. He was on a
Lots of
loan
those
for.
add-ons though are pretty crazy. Like there's
Mm,
further add-ons if they finish in the top half. There's further add-ons if they qualify for Europe.
yeah,
Um, and also Wolves have a 15% sell-on clause.
yeah,
So it's
it's
like
it's it's insane. Yeah, but yeah. So that is probably the Chiefs signing. But again, by the time this goes out, they may shockingly get a deal for Hussein Awar from Leon, which seems like a ludicrous thing to say right now, considering that like that guy was linked to the likes of
But
Arsenal and Liverpool.
yeah, these are perpetually linked to Arsenal. Can I just add?
Yeah, he's a very Arsenal player. In fairness, he is that type of player. Like he would be a good fit there. But then I can also see him playing at Liverpool as a false nine. So I don't know where he's going to end up with Forest, but if he does, then welcome to the Premier League. Hussein. Have anyone told you about relegation? I don't think so. Um, but again, you guys probably are looking at this and going, "What the fuck is going on? How is it that Nottingham Forest suddenly, after being in the Championship mire for years, if not decades, now suddenly has all of this money?" You might perhaps wonder if they have a sugar daddy of some kind that's keeping them. Maybe they're state sponsored. Maybe they've got private investment. No, they have got perhaps the biggest sugar daddy they've ever seen.
Robin
Mainly
Hood.
because he's
Not Forest.
probably ironically enough, no, it is genuinely just a billionaire.
Oh, I wanted a cartoon fox.
I know, no, you wanted a cartoon fox. What you got is a 20 stone Greek man who has some fucking shit on his name. So let me introduce you to Evangelos Marinakis, which is a wonderful name. So, this is a guy who is also the owner of Olympiacos, right? So when he bought Forest initially,
How,
he tried to. Hmm?
how is that allowed?
Well, it's different countries essentially. I mean, the same way that the pizza family run Watford.
Theoretically, they could be drawn against each other in a competition.
Yes, and if that's the case, then they can't be allowed in the same group. Like Watford nearly had the trouble when they got to Europa League, and they would have had to have a provision they wouldn't face Granada or Udinese because they're all owned by the same family.
They all don't
So
exist.
they all don't exist. Yes. In the same way that like like Leipzig and Salzburg had to prove they're not both Red Bull. Hence why RB in Leipzig stands for Rasenball Sport. Really
Hmm.
stupid shit like that. So yes, he owns Olympiacos and still does. So when he did buy Nottingham Forest initially, he did just like flood them with like new players, and none of them played. It was weird. It was like a real kind of like shifty fucking like back end deal type of stuff. I don't know what happened with those players to be honest. But he has plenty of controversy to his name, mainly because he was implicated in the footballing match fixing scandal in Greek football in 2015. But even before then, right, 4 years before that, the if you remember Jabril Cisse, who was playing for
Do
Panathinaikos at the time, yeah, he had a fight with Evangelos Marinakis. And Cisse was beaten up by Olympiacos fans and said he was going to appeal to UEFA. It went to the Greek courts, and Marinakis was found not guilty. Funny how that works because he's a massive billionaire. Then 4 years later, then we had the match fixing scandal. So basically, it was a regular betting patterns, mostly in the cup competition in second division. And Marinakis was basically accused of participating in a massive match fixing network in the lower divisions, and was linked to all over across Europe as well. There was nothing essentially found on him. He was charged with bribery and manipulation, complicity, and all this sort of instigation and facilitating acts of violence, which is something, but all wasn't essentially none of it stuck essentially. He was acquitted from all that for stuff like that. And then when it continued on again up to into 2015, a few people other around him kind of fell, but he more or less survived. So he was questioned on it. He said there was no evidence against me, and happened to be released on a bail of €200,000, which was fair enough, I think, considering he was essentially fixing all of Greek football allegedly. So yeah, this came back then. This kind of got settled essentially in 2019, where basically Marinakis and 20 others will have a trial on that. They were all the accusations were compromised into a match fixing scandal and creation of a gang as opposed to a criminal organization, because it's apparently important. And then in 2021, they acquitted him unanimously for the match fixing scandal, and essentially he was a free man from that point on.
So he just that sounds like a brown envelope job there as well.
It's very much implied, but it gets better, because not only is he involved in controversy in sports, a Greek drug trafficking investigation started in 2014 regarding Noor 1, a ship owned by Vitalis Kalafatis, was investigated by the Greek Coast Guard, DEA, and the Greek judicial authorities, and culminated in the conviction of various individuals and 2 arrest warrants for Turkish nationals. In March 2018, Marinakis was charged with drug trafficking. The accusations against Marinakis were described as very serious charges, following an investigation after the tanker was intercepted at the Greek port of Piraeus, carrying 2.1 tons of heroin in 2014.
Fucking hell.
According to the jailed co-owner of Noor 1, Ephimos Ioannakis, I may have butchered that name, I apologise, the vessel had in fact carried an additional ton of heroin. There was 3 tons of heroin on that boat, all unloaded on the island of Crete and trafficked to mainland Europe before authorities could intercept it. The Judicial Council of the Piraeus Lower Court touched on all related issues and ruled that the prosecutor's order was not justified. So when this happened, not
because he's only a shipping magnate who's had a ship with 3 tons of heroin. Just
there's no link there.
There's no link whatsoever.
No links there at all. No. So get this, right? So the first chairman at the time, Nicholas Randall, I think he's still in charge. He wrote an open letter to supporters, affirming his support for the sugar daddy, and confirmed he was under investigation. There's no charge against Marinakis and no prosecution in process. Here's why. In January 2021, and after 10 witnesses of the case had already died, and after reviewing the case, the judge came to the conclusion there was no evidence implicating Marinakis and therefore concluded his investigation.
My good God.
So that's, if you're wondering, Notts Forest fans, where you're getting all the money, a 3-ton boat of heroin might have something to do with it.
Really passed the FA fit and proper persons test.
Well, that's the thing, you see, because he got it. This is where a lot of them.
He dealt 5 tons of heroin. Had he dealt 5 tons of heroin now, he wouldn't have passed that test. He would have.
They have standards.
Yeah, he would have had to have bribed the FA to have passed the test then. But now
if any of that black tar shit, no, off you go. None of that.
We only take this China white, lovely grey hair, right?
But that's the thing, like, see, this is where the EFL have fucked up, because essentially you had they were able to let people in because their standards of practice are so much lower compared to the Premier League. We thought the Premier League was bad. The EFL is so much worse, because bear in mind the Chinese owners that are now involved with Wolves and who got Jorge Mendes in the door, that's starting the championship. So if you remember, they signed Ruben Neves and Diego Jota while they were in the championship, so you could circumvent all the Premier League rules. And even now it's still happening. I think Hull's been taken over by either an Egyptian or Arabian businessman, and they're starting to sign regular loads of players now as well. So the cycle continues in the lower leagues, but this is where people like him get in. Again, hilariously enough, like, this guy is such a strange character. Like, he is, I think, the type of people who just is a mogul. Like, I think he owns 2 TV channels in Greece, and if I'm not mistaken, he wrote song lyrics for a pop star in Greece, um, because like she was singing the theme song for one of the shows over there. So he wrote the lyrics for this woman to sing. So not only is he a football owner, he's also owns two TV channels and is technically a songwriter.
Like
All the
this guy
while,
did, like I can't wait for the Netflix documentary or the Netflix like recap, like dramatization of his life.
I don't know if any of it would be allowed out. This is as cloak and dagger as it gets, you know. Like
We're all gonna die from being in this podcast now. You've doomed us all.
this is why I'm putting this out next week, so we have like a week to disappear.
Okay.
But like again, and just to be clear, if anyone's listening, this is all alleged and it's all public knowledge. So get the fuck off our backs, please. But that's insane. Like it isn't a coincidence that like he has just in like lumped so much money at this to hope that Nottingham Forest stay up. And for probably their own sakes, like you'd like to think that they will, but like they will get such a financial fair play slap on the arse if it doesn't work out for them. You'd like to think, but then again, half the players they've signed are under the age of 26. They could sell them on for stupid amounts of money if they could. So you never know. But like that's like he's essentially just built a new team out of a promotion standard.
Bit of heroin.
We mentioned the 3 tons of heroin, yes. You just need to keep coming up with conversation. I don't know why. I don't know what about that is so newsworthy. I don't know. But yeah, like that's the kind of people we have in. So like, you know, when you get people like Mark, like Arnett or Abramovich out of the league, you just get someone else to come in and freshen things up a little bit, you know. So
That's
I mean,
mad. Like I didn't know anything about this because I don't care about newly promoted team. No. I honestly didn't I like we not in Forest, the most amount I paid attention to them was them hammering us in the FA Cup
mm,
last season, and then the one good player that the two good players I liked, Samba and Spence, and they sold them off. So I've actually no ties to them now to pay attention to them again. But now I might. Now I just might.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like they're a very interesting club in that sense. Again, particularly not even for the Brian Clough connection and that, because that is one very important part of it as well. But it's also that kind of strange fact of like this is kind of how they've got their mojo back, and it's that kind of like that question of the ethical consumption of your football club. Can you live with that sort of thing? You know.
But like
the one thing I know about
heroin.
Yeah, but the 3 tons of heroin does kind of add into that. Sorry,
yeah. The one thing I do know about Notts Forest is that's the origin of us wearing a red jersey. That we had worn the wine jersey up until or burgundy jersey up until then, and then we had to borrow a set of jerseys from them, so they like made them into tank tops, and they had white undersleeves, and that's where the whole red and white came along.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my tidbit of knowledge. It is nothing as interesting as 3 tons of heroin.
3 tons of heroin, yeah.
Is that the title of this podcast now?
I really shouldn't go with that because we'll get a very different audience, I think. Yeah. Somehow. But yeah, I think so if anyone wanted a second team that is morally ambiguous and you don't want you want to go for Newcastle, well, we've got a team for you.
But with regards keeping out to the football, like with regards to like whether or not all of this will actually work,
that is a big question.
It's worth pointing out that like Villa signed 15 players and only survived by a point, and because they already had Jack Grealish.
Yes, this is very true.
Not Forest signing 17, well, 16 now, but 17 when this goes out, possibly more. Yeah, it's not really. That's why I have them so low in my prediction. I don't see it gelling.
Yeah, like history would tell you that it doesn't work.
History really does tell you just buying a boatload of fucking players. Pun very much intended. It tends not to work.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, the guy sounds like a massive risk taker. So I fully expect this kind of thing from him. But at some point, like Cooper's a good boss. Like he's really good.
He's a superb coach. He is absolutely superb. Yeah.
So if they do survive, if they do get up, it won't be because of any of the fucking players that they've signed. It'll be because of him.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, after watching them against West Ham, like they dug in and they got a good result out of it. Again, West Ham are no slouches. They're a bit hard done by to have lost their first 2 games. But that's nothing against Nottingham Forest. They dug in at home and they played really fucking well. They play that awful fucking 3-4-3, 3-4-2, 3-5-2 system. No, it's 3-4. Well, that's the one, 3-4-1-2, and it's just like it's so complicated and so like packed in certain places. You're going like it must be a fucker to play against because they're just they can be so defensive, but yet have great like movement on the counter. So like they will do it well just even for the system alone, kind of way, like how Brighton do, and like I said, it'll actually be a lovely game when the two of them play because they're two honestly like good coach teams going up against each other. The one difference, of course, is that Brighton don't have 3 tons of heroin on their side, but then again, not many people do.
They just have a load of seagulls, and they're fucking intense.
Yes. Seagulls versus heroin is not the movie tie-in I was expecting for this podcast, but you know what? I'm up for it. I think
you know what? They've made worse. They have fucking made worse fucking movies than Seagulls versus heroin.
Joe, I'd pay money to see that.
Yeah.
I just pay money for the heroin. That's it.
You know what? Fuck it. Forget about the seagulls and the heroin. Just give me the blackjack and the hookers.
Yeah, just sprinkle out a load of chips and leave them to it.
Just imagine just like lashing the heroin on like fucking vinegar on the chips. Delicious. There we go.
That's the thing about heroin. It's terribly Moorish.
Yeah. Chips and heroin together at last.
As brought to you by a white man aged 20 to 45. Everybody knows my ideas.
Oh, good.